to the Four Nations, brought to you by the UKEL. I am Luna, and I'll be your host for the wonderful series this evening. I am not on my own, however. Before we introduce the analysts, let's take a look at our matchup for tonight, which will be Rod and Friends going up against the Bandits. Bring on the analysts now. Say hello to Black Bloxer and Rob. How are you guys doing?
Oh, good-ish. I've been imported in. I got home 5 minutes ago, so I'm ready. I'm ready for some League of Legends.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting matchup, right? It's two, I don't want to say stalwarts now of the UK scene, but Bandits finalists from last split, and they've really solidified themselves as an org and a roster that we've come to know and love. And Broad and Friends, they've been around for so long, different iterations, but either way, it's really exciting matchup of like the old guard versus the looking to present themselves as being the future of the UK. You know, I'm to stick around the Bandits.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a matchup. It's a matchup. I believe we last saw these two teams play each other on the penultimate day of regular season. I don't think it was the last day. I think it was the penultimate day, and it did not look close. If memory serves, I think that was the game where there was a bit of an incident in the jungle that I won't touch on too much. But that does bring us quite nicely into what our head-to-head for the day is. Before we have a look at the rosters, let's take a look at the head-to-head that we've got lined up for today, assuming that is ready for us. Will be Porp and Lunkerfer, two players who are incredibly important to their teams. Block, so let's start with you. Talk us through why Porp is so important to the Broad and Friends lineup.
God, I mean, Porp, he's been important to teams in the UK for so long. I mean, as we've been talking about a lot with this Broad and Friends roster, there's a lot of old rosters that have looked very similar to this under a lot of different banners. Grey Warwick used to look like this one. Cabbage Family used to look like this one as well. And Porp has always been kind of the main driving engine on these teams all the way through. He's such an exciting jungler, really likes to get quite aggressive with a lot of his playstyle, and really is the driving engine that makes the whole rest of it work. I mean, I think that this whole roster has been exciting from top to bottom. I think Akers can find his own advantages in lane. I think QQR, it looks really good on some of these roaming champions. Spark, Zeta, they've looked pretty good in the bot lane as well. They've had their moments too, but they are all riding off the back of what Porp can do to push his team forwards. I mean, you can see, right, in the way that he plays around his team, he's constantly involved in almost every single coil, every single fight that these teams play. And it's for a reason, right? He's such a good player, likes these very aggressive junglers, has been looking better and better on these very aggressive gank-heavy jungle options, and I think that if he can pull out a couple of these today, potentially the Pantheon, there's a couple others he's looked even better on potentially, then he can be that main driving engine. However, when they lose, right, in that most recent matchup that they lost over in the upper bracket of the playoffs, he just never really got going, and as soon as he doesn't, this whole squad falls to pieces.
Certainly does. Now, Rob, on the other side of that, Lunkerfer, why is this player so important to the Bandits lineup?
It's such a contrast, right? You say about Porp, driving engine. He's someone that, as you were saying, Bloxer, that he's playing. He kind of leads the line, right? He's the one calling the shots. Whereas Lunkerfer, he will be leading the line in a different way, which is that everyone plays for Lunkerfer. JB's had a great split, to be honest. I think JB's looked pretty damn good in a lot of his games. But Lunkerfer has always been the main carry for this team. In last split when they were the 200 Bandits, this split when they are the Bandits, it's always been, okay, Elendil, okay, Kenny, you're going to facilitate Lunkerfer. Loopy, you're going to play weak side, so Lunkerfer can get a farm advantage. Do not just stonewall your lanes. Lunkerfer will play the Lilia. He'll play the Gwen has been this split. He'll play the Mundo. He'll play all of these more farm-orientated junglers, less facilitating picks compared to Porp. There's a big compare and contrast between these two, right? If you've ever go back to GCSE English or something, but it's a big compare and contrast where you have Porp, who's this facilitator. He will say, I'm going in, he'll play a Nocturne, he'll play a Pantheon, he'll play an Engaged champion, whereas Lunkerfer says, everyone else, die for my entertainment. You're basically four meat bags for Lunkerfer, your king. And he will play those carry junglers. And I think you can see that as we saw in the stats. Porp is much heavier on the assists, but Lunkerfer, he's right up there in terms of kills, right? So I think it's like 7, 8 kills a game, and then 7, 8 assists a game, but he's always there in the kill score. And so if Lunkerfer has a good game, you see very high kills for him. But then we saw in their previous matchup, and you just brought it up as well, Luna, the matchup before, which we don't want to discuss too much, but Lunkerfer had an absolute howler of a game and basically wasn't on the board at all. And so it's very much a feast or famine play style for the Bandits, and especially around Lunkerfer. But it's what got them to finals last split. So they'll have to see if today they can pull that off against what I would argue is probably the most experienced roster in the entire league in terms of competitive history, as well as playing on LAN and playing together.
Absolutely. Now, before we head on to rosters, just a very quick heads up. I've just heard from behind the scenes that Bandits have had a minor staffing change. Our very own Harold Hamhand, who was head coach of this roster, has moved to the assistant coach position. And assistant coach Chrisley has stepped up to head coach. So we might see a slight change in draft philosophy or a slight change in play style coming into today's series that might give them a leg up over Broad. We will see. Speaking of Broad, however, let's bring up this roster. And Rob, we'll throw this one to you since we had blocks to talk on Paul. Talk us through this roster a little bit.
I mean, it's an absolutely storied UK roster, right? Maybe not under the Broad and Friends banner, but they've all been around for such a long, long time. Akers, Porp, QQR, Spark, and Zeta in the support role to round it out. We had questions maybe coming into the split, Zeta swapping to the support role. He played on it last when Broad were in that relegation season when we had that weird group, like, 2 group stages, the 2 groups of 5. And we were like, okay, can Zeta really step it up? And I think overall, this roster has shown a lot of promise. It's hard to say with what happened in the upper bracket, which honestly was a bit of a destruction by Inquick against Broad. Broad really didn't look like they were in that series at all. It's hard to say, wow, Broad have looked so good because it's recency bias coming in, right? But in general, they've had such good games when they have been able to pull off those wins. And I think they have the experience and they have the champ pools for Fearless that they should be seen as one of the major threats in this bracket. But then again, let's not forget, of all the teams we've still got left here, I think it being the most competitive split of UKL ever. If this was a different split, we'd all be like, yeah, these are the favourites to take the whole thing, just off of name recognition alone. But this split, I think that's been a little bit different.
Most certainly has. On the other side of the rift, up against them, we talked about them a little bit earlier, specifically their jungler, Bandits, Bloxer. Talk us through this roster just a little bit more.
As we've been talking about, right, Lungfo is that main guy for this squad. This is the exact same squad that was able to take themselves to those finals last split. Of course, they didn't win it, but then again, Venom Crest was way too good for us in that previous split. There was absolutely no surprises that they were able to win it. The fact they didn't drop a single game means that I really didn't judge the Bandits for not being able to pick up that series. But as you said, Rob, this is such a competitive split here on the Four Nations. All of these teams seem to be able to take games off of each other, and we were expecting the Bandits to come into this one looking pretty good, right? There are a couple different teams that already had quite a lot of experience all playing together. Some of the teams from Division 2, then you had Broad and Friends, and you had 5IQ. Well, sorry, Bandits and 5IQ. For Bandits, it just felt like they weren't together. It didn't feel like they translated between last split and this split in the same way we were expecting. We were expecting this roster to just be smooth rolling, as you would think, right? They've already played together for a while. Well, they just didn't transition into this one really well at all. I do think, though, the Bandits have been looking better and better as we've been getting closer to the playoffs and now into the playoffs. Again, recency bias is going to be a big thing, because as much as we just watched Broad get absolutely kicked about by 5IQ, we basically watched the same thing. Paragon got dismantled by the Bandits in that previous matchup, but how much of that is that Paragon weren't exactly the strongest squad so far? I think quite a lot. I don't think they're going to be able to riftwalk this one quite as easily. I like the roster, I really do. I think they've got a lot of really interesting pieces, but when you play so heavily for your jungler in this situation, when it isn't a jungle facilitating everyone else, when it's a you facilitating your jungle, yes, there's a lot of strong, aggressive picks that you can play in the meta at the moment, but if it doesn't work, you are putting so many eggs into one basket, and that basket can completely come apart. We saw it in that previous matchup. We've seen it in a couple of different moments throughout the whole split as well, where just it hasn't worked out right here for the Bandits. I think they're fun. I think they're exciting. At the same time, though, I do worry that this roster, even if you pick up a win here, I feel like they're beginning, at least in my estimations, to be topping out on where I thought they'd be ending up at the end of this split.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've spoken a lot about these junglers and about just how much impact they have, but I want to pull our eyes just very briefly towards this mid lane. JB versus QQR. QQR has had a bit of a split, shall we say. This is not the QQR that we know and love, that has won the Four Nations before alongside Lions Crew, right? QQR then was an absolute monster, and it's felt a little bit different this split. Has still had a very successful split. By no means can anybody take that away from him, but he has looked a little bit out of sorts. And we saw last week what JB can do when given the opportunity to allow mechanics to reign supreme and to pull himself into that limelight and make sure that no matter what, he is the person that is just out-handsing in the mid lane. Do we think that's something that could show itself today, or has QQR looked consistent enough in the last couple of weeks to not allow JB to do that? Rob, we'll start with you.
I think QQR firstly, the last best of three. I don't know if that's really good to really represent what QQR can do. He played Kedda mid and then Annie mid, and those aren't really QQR. If you say, oh, QQR, you think like Vigar, you think Ari, maybe you think Victor, these kind of Lissandra. He's had a historically very good Lissandra. Karma, which both JB and him, well, historically QQR had an amazing Karma as well. And I think that as a player, I don't think he's gotten. I wouldn't say he's got worse. I just think the level of the split's gone up. The split where they won. On Lion's Creed, if you look at the mid lane pool back then, you had Timotopper, you had like Ketsuo, you had Roskilde, you had Tycool on Versic, and these are not the same level of mid laners. Well, one of them I think maybe personal bias coming in there, but one of them I think was up to the level of QQR. But the rest of them, I don't think we're at the level of what QQR was doing back then. But now, I think he's kind of facing a pack that is all around his level individually, so he's not able to sort of not cheat his lanes, but when he was playing like the Vigar and he's playing these late scaling mages, he kind of got away with a lot, in my opinion, in the last split he played. He gets away with a lot until when he's playing that late scaling stuff where he's able to just sit there and not face someone who punishes him as hard in laning phase and he can scale into the game. And that doesn't happen anymore. That just doesn't happen at the level he's playing now. So I think he's still as good as he was before. I think it now comes to more down to the team cohesion of Bron and Friends or the ex-Cabbage family lot, rather than it does down to QQR, who in the past often had really good performances.
Anything to add, Bloxer?
I think even beyond just like his level of play, I think mid lane itself is also in a very different spot than it was previously. Mid lane is not the carry role. I think at this point, mid lane is what we used to talk about top lane. It's a wet noodle fight. It is your Syndra versus Azir, right? These two are going to sit there and do nothing. It's your Orianna versus Syndra. All of these champions who, for the most part, are just going to be in the mid lane, and your whole job is to get through mid lane and either be a roaming champion like the Galio and the Ahri and come join the other fights in the mid game, or to just get through laning phase and get to the big team fights and wombo combo your ult together. There is room to be a little bit more interesting, right? We've seen some of that. There's a Zed occasionally, maybe we get a Yone, as we were talking about, right? Had the Annie and the Kennen trying to pull things out, but I just don't think mid lane is in a point where you can be that main carry for your team right now. It's about all of the other lanes, so a combo of the team cohesion not necessarily being there, the other mid laners being almost as good as he is, or if not better in some of these situations. I think some of the top teams have slightly better mid laners even, and then the mid lane pool is just... it's a bit dull at the moment. I think it's all combining to make it look like QQR's not doing so hot, but I don't think anything's changed on his end. I think everything's changed around him.
So I'd say it's a fair assessment. That being said, slight shout out to our producer of the day, Wet Noodle mentioned. Thank you very much, Bloxer. I saw that on the side of my screen and I had to call it out. So let's take a very quick look at the bracket, see what these teams are playing for today, right? So Broad and Friends, the Bandits playing today, and we've got Rise and Belfast on Thursday. Those two teams will then go to play against each other to face the loser of Inkquick versus Venom Crest. So this is not by no means the hardest matchup that you're going to have going through this lower bracket.
Yeah.
But it is definitely one of them. Do you think either team could kind of take it in three to 5 words or less? Bloxer, we'll start with you. Do you have a specific predisposition before we head into draft?
Oh, for who ends up taking this one? I think Broad and Friends are gonna pick this one up, but I don't think it's gonna be particularly one-sided as much as it was last time. Yeah, I do think that it's gonna be close.
Okay, and Rob.
You want 5 words. Future colon knocked out by Sin. That's the future for either of these two teams.
Yeah. You're so right. You're so right. Like,
look at the two teams they've got to face, by the way. If Rod go through, they've got to face either a team with Tofu Jamsu on it, who played for them last split, or a team with Sin on it, who played for them, or Trizzy, with Sin and Trizzy, who've played for them in the past. So, Rod, they no matter what, if they go through today, there's going to be a vengeance in the lower bracket. Bandits, they could really upset the apple cart here if they go through with it. But I as an aside, my boy Sin and the many. Watch out for them in the lower bracket going forward.
So, and as we head into draft, I will just do one final shout out while the bands come through. Do not forget the finals tickets are on sale. 21st of June, LAN event up in Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire University in their new arena. Do not want to miss it. We've got a whole host of teams that are fighting and vying for a position in those finals, including the two teams today. Of course, this is a knockout match. The loser of this best of three will be going home empty-handed. Their split will be done. As the bands start to come in, I think this is pretty much what we expect. The Vi Pantheon bands coming out of the Bandits. The Urgot taken away from Loopy by Broad and Friends. We'll see how the bands round out, but I do not imagine them being anything that we do not expect.
No junglers allowed. All of the strongest junglers are immediately being taken off of the board. You can tell that these junglers are the main driving forces of both of these squads. That's a lot of the very aggressive ones gone as well. You're kind of only looking at the Xin Zhao, Jarvan, and maybe if you're feeling really aggressive, the Nocturne, as these big get into the back line, early game focus pickups still really remaining. Be interesting to see if we do get somebody ending up on tank duty between these two junglers, because hey, the Sedge is strong at the moment, but neither Porp nor Lungfo really like to go towards it.
I also want to point out here the Varus ban on blue side for Bandits. The only read I have here is you saying the Nocturne. I wouldn't be surprised if Elendel's one of his best champs is Xayah. This sounds really weird, but I wonder if they're banning out this Varus because they don't want to take it, right? They don't want it first pick. And so they're sitting there going, well, if we don't want to give it over to Spark, and we suspect Porp is going to play these very heavy engaged junglers. You just mentioned a Nocturne. So maybe they're setting up for having an easier laning phase for themselves on a more disengaged style playstyle. As we see the Ahri, which is a big pick for QQR and also a pretty decent pick for JB being picked up first here. One of the more contested picks left available with everything taken off the board.
That it most certainly is. It's not something I think we've seen much for JB this split. I think he tends to go more towards the more standard kind of all-out aggression type champions like the Akali. It's going to be matched by this Victor. And it does fall into this idea of Bandits play around Lungfer. Ahri is a champion that can shove and roam quite effectively, match up with the jungler, play skirmishes in the river. It's exactly what you expect this champion to do. It's very on theme. That, however, is something that Porp does not get very often. For good reason, Bloxer.
Yeah, he's incredibly strong on all of these very aggressive pickups, and I think the Xin Zhao, in terms of what's been banned and what's left on the table, is the best available option for him. And it gets banned away from him specifically quite a lot as well, because he can just completely take over one of these matchups. If somebody wants to be played around, well, Porp can use this one to either funnel gold into himself or into his other lanes. I especially like it when you've got something like the Victor in the mid lane, because Victor's fine, Victor's chilling, you don't need to worry about him. You can now pick something more aggressive for Akkers, pick something more interesting in the bottom lane for Spark. That being said, right, the same sort of thing happens right here with the Viego. Both of these junglers now want to play in a very similar style. I think the Viego looks a little bit stronger in the late stages of the game, but it does mean that there's going to be a lot of aggression flying around, and the pathing is going to be incredibly important during the early game.
It's a lot of comfort as well. Lunkerfer's second most played ever. His most played ever is Rengar. Second most is Viego. Not in comp, but at least on ladder. So it's massive comfort for the Bandits. And I'll be surprised they banned the Vi, actually, looking back at it, because I would have definitely said Porp on Vi, not so much, but Porp on Xin Zhao, very, very good. So I'm surprised that we do see him getting this. As we see the Smolder as well, which obviously most likely going to the bot lane. You don't expect any weird shenanigans with a flex here. Smolder has been seen to be better on this current patch, along with Senna. We're seeing like these two champions got buffed massively over the last few patches, so they are rising up a lot in prominence, and it's not that surprising to see Spark, who, do you remember, Bloxer, when it was Karma mid-meta with Smolder bot lane, when Lions Creed won their split, and it was like Spark was absurdly good at this champion. He was ridiculously good at Smolder, so it's not that surprising to see when it comes back into the meta him picking it up. We see a Braun ban and Shen. They're banning out Loopy's champs here, Rod, and I honestly with you, if you've got last pick, give it to Akkers and take something that can get this Smolder through laning phase, and you should be pretty happy if you're Rod and Friends. I don't even think you really need to target Loopy, because you know what he's going to play. It's going to be a Scion or an Ornn, or there's enough champs left for him. I'm just a bit surprised they're doing this, but so far I'm really liking what Rod are bringing out, because it is ultra comfort for game one.
I feel like the question has to be asked. We got a bit of a wet noodle fight in AD carries, but is there the angle where this Senna's flexed into support and you look to take something more standard like that Xayah on AD carry that was mentioned earlier? Or do we think this is just guaranteed Senna Smolder AD carry matchup, fall asleep for 25 minutes?
The buffs were ADC Senna, really. They weren't really towards... The build is now like Shiv, rapid fire Black Cleaver, like Mosquito Senna, where you just scale and you get so much free stats from your souls that it's just ends up being the right way to play. We see this Cho'Gath pick up though, really interesting. Maybe a takeaway on the Senna Cho'Gath lane possibly. But unlikely. It's just interesting.
Do want to pair it with here.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
Taking away a lot of the best pairings for the Senna, and you often pick your Senna pairing early on so that this specifically doesn't end up happening. I'm a little bit surprised. They are heading towards the Ornn. I think the Ornn's in a good spot at the moment, but the thing I'm looking at, right, for the Bandits here is which lane do you play around? Because it's not the mid lane, it's not the top lane, and it's not the bot lane, right? I don't see a single lane, really, for the Bandits that you're particularly looking to play into.
You don't. You play entirely through your jungler. You have a mid laner that can very easily get out of lane. You just look to invade onto port on cooldown, I think is the plan here. That being said, very, very surprised that we're seeing Akers take the Cho'Gath here. It could go support. I'd be very impressed if it did. All of these hovers are leading to some questions, but we don't talk about hovers. It's fine. And this is not the typical Akers style that we see. We normally see him on, the much more kind of bruisery, brawlery, I'm just going to fist fight you and be a damage threat at some point in the game. So he's really trying to, fight Loopy at his own game here.
I think it was a takeaway, right? I think they firstly think about Senna Cho, and they also think Loopy has played Cho'Gath before, has got time on that in solo queue and in comp. So maybe they're like, well, it's like sort of a double takeaway, right? We're denying it for the bot lane, and we're denying it for the top laner. If you are the Bandits, there is a lot of comfort here, right? I think we seem to have forgotten how good Loopy's Ornn was. I don't know how this has ever seemed to sort of gone. Like, Loopy's Ornn has always been so incredible. That it basically got them to finals, let's be honest. That in his Zergot was so good. So overall, a lot of comfort for both sides, really. And however, I'm a little bit worried that Bandits don't really have anything enough to aggress here, right? Like, look at the side of... Look at the scaling on Bandit. Braun. Look at the scaling of Braun.
I hate to cut you off, but we are going to have to go to our casters here in just a second. So, in 3 words or less, Loxer, we'll start with you. Who's winning based on draft feeling?
Broad draft.
Rob?
Broad.
You've heard it here, folks. Our analysts think Broad will take game number 1 off of draft and draft alone. Of course, the names cannot go off. We'll see what our casters think. So, Mile, Rory, it's over to you.
Thank you so much for throwing it over to us. I'm Mila, and today I'm joined with Rory, and I'm honestly super hyped to be here for this matchup. It's going to be a banger, and I gotta say, I like both of these drafts, but the scaling question definitely stands. What's your take?
Thing is, Melly, this is great. I've dressed for the summer. It's a nice warm day. I'm going to put my legs back. I'm going to put the arms behind my head. I'm just going to watch 2 teams scale up to level 15 and then beat each other to death. It's going to be excellent. We got a Smolder, we got an Ornn, we got a Senna. You're going to be really bored before 15 minutes. And that's unfortunate for you, but it means I can waffle on for a bit, so I'm not that sorry about the whole thing.
You know what? I love that for you, because I've already had other stuff to do today, so it's your time to shine. I actually think the question between Smolder and Senna, though, is very, very interesting, because I have seen this bot lane matchup several times now in Prime League, I think especially it was, and it always worked in favor for the Senna, which is strange because her range is just nutso.
Yeah, Senna is in like kind of a crazy position now where like the buffs to her soul drop rate are really good.
Yep.
And I think she was already borderline before those buffs came in. I saw a lot of people go, "Oh, it's actually placebo." Nah, this smacks. Especially with the newest build with like Rob was touching on the desk.
Yeah.
Shiv and Black Cleaver. It's just so strong. It's crazy. Unfortunately, I don't think this comp from Broad and Friends is like, you can't play into it. They have so much zone denial.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I also think big issue, Cho'Gath later on.
Yeah.
I always pose the question when there's a tank like that in the game, or a bruiser, who's gonna kill that guy? Who's gonna
Diego,
have the
I
damage?
guess?
Okay, look, the thing is, it's not any Viego, it's Lankafor's Viego, which is his most played champion. He's super comfortable on this, but he does depend on all the resets. And we've seen it before. If a Viego does not get into that position where he gets to have these resets and the team doesn't play around him as they have to in order to make that work, it's a struggle bus, especially against something like a Xin Zhao who has that fake tankiness through the Crescent Guard. So I think jungle matchup is going to be very, very interesting here. And I think both of them actually have a lot of responsibility towards their teams.
Absolutely. What I think is very important here is that Broad need to get to these Dragon Pits first.
Yeah.
Against Ink Quick, they did that once, and then it was on Elder, and they got completely wiped out because the enemy team had an Ocean Soul. But every other time, they're approaching pits late, and they just can't get in. Now it's a bit easier. Now you have a Cho'Gath and an Alistair. But as we're getting into game, I am very interested to see how Broad and Friends play these early objective fights.
So you would... overall, you would agree with the analysts and say Broad should have this just because their draft seems to be a little stronger, and the answers into that from the side of Bandits are just not quite there?
Oh, hell no, I think they're the better players. But I think the draft's going to really help them as well. Overall, I'd say the lows of Broad and Friends are higher than the lows of Bandits.
Okay.
So even if Broad have a bad game 1, I think overall they'll be able to win this best of 3. But specifically this match, I think they're going to win. As long as QQR doesn't get too chunked before laning starts.
Looks about right, manages to make it out alive, doesn't have to use flash either, so everything fine. But we are getting a bit of a late invade here from Lankafor and the Bandits gang. However, Broad are very well aware of this. Now Bandits even have to do some zoning work, even
Early
throwing
ignite.
out that early ignite. And,
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, sure, why not? But
What are we doing, gang?
very aggressive, you know, unnecessary aggressive? I don't know.
So, the reasoning behind why a lot of supports go for these early ignites is because it's generally back up so fast that you're fine just to do this initial chunk.
Yeah.
One thing of note, we're back again, by the way. Hi, in case you missed our faces. Elendil on the Senna is running Grasp.
Ooh, yeah.
So has seen, look, I'm into an Alistair Smolder. I can just farm these stacks. And even though they're significantly weaker on ranged champions, it doesn't matter if you get 50. Like, that's still a significant amount of bonus health that you're gaining.
Yeah, absolutely. I think talking about the supports as well, real quick, we've seen this early little play. Kenny lost the ignite, but I'm very interested in what sums we have on Alistair, because if I'm not wrong, it was heal. And I've seen a lot of, especially Alistair players, go with that heal for tempo. So actually using that tempo heal, which could give them an advantage, but maybe we're getting a little bit of an advantage from the Bandits here as Pop just stepped a little bit too far forward. And there goes the first blood over to the side of Bandits.
So, right, what happened here is this actually starts before the minions even crash. QQR gets that early chunk, right, which drops him to about 60%. Immediately, he doesn't want to trade as aggressively with JB because he's lower on HP. Victor really wants to be going aggressive level 1 because his Q is so oppressive. He can't do that, which means JB is able to push the wave. Lankafer, we see him invading blue buff, very aware of this, but then immediately goes back to his side's blue, uses JB's pressure, and they're able to capitalize on pop.
Yeah. Very well played. And important to get these early game picks for Bandits. As we already mentioned, it is going to be a scaling game. It is going to take some time until all of these champions can unleash their power on the map. But especially for Lankafor, it's so important to, stay on top of the game at all times. And he has already gotten a little bit of a lead here, managed to really capitalize off of that early game shenanigans, as we're now seeing a little more
TP from the future.
bot lane action. Yep, TP from the future, I love that, Sometimes you just gotta predict the TP, but Elendil has to be very careful, needs to go out here. And now Lankafor is in the area, but they don't really have the damage. Flash in to stun, both junglers want to have some fun. But the turret range will manage to take the pressure out for now. But whew, we can already see that early game Senna does not have a lot of health to her name. Obviously some sustain, but it's gonna be a little rough.
Yeah, the moment that W comes out from Elendil, it basically gives Zeta the green light to go.
Yep.
He's just happy to dive in. Doesn't matter. They're able to blow both flashes from the bot lane of the Bandits. Now, Zeta has his flash still, which means we're looking on him on making a play here. We're looking on him to capitalize on how weak Senna is early.
Definitely. Overall, though, not a lot going on, especially that top lane not going to be very interesting for the first 15 to 20 minutes, I would say. I don't see any of those guys killing the other one. They might try, but I'm not sure it's gonna work. But we are getting some more bot lane action, as we can see a re-engage from Kenny here. But Elendil super low, has to even pull the barrier, manages nothing. So in the end, it's the kill for Spark. Important kill for the Smolder. And the action continues on mid lane just a little bit as these two are trading some damage, but no kills there so far in that specific matchup.
Yeah, not at all. QQR actually up 10 CS. I'm pretty sure the wave's quite even here. So that's just that's just better trading, better farming as the difference maker here. As yeah, just gonna be a few how do you do's in the top lane. So what was I'm going to say the only reason I think Elendil barriered there, because he was 100% dead, was maybe deny Spark an extra stack of the passive, because it would have killed the Q. If so, I don't know if that's big-brained, or like one of the... I don't know if you've seen like the hyper mathematical correct Shen builds that have been popping up, and top lane builds, like that's hyper mathematic Senna right there.
Definitely, and we get some more action in the river here as Lankafor can move in, so that gives them a little bit of a numbers advantage here. Bandits, but very nice step forward from Pop, picking up a kill there. And now it is Bandits who have to run as they are getting absolutely slandered down here. Kenny has to try and make it out, but that was a very one-sided fight all of a sudden.
Yeah, incredibly one-sided fight. And now the early game advantage that Lankafor built for himself is kind of just negated because, like, JB got that early kill, great, but he's down 10 CS in lane into QQR. Hawk was down, I'd say, 2 camps. But now these 2 kills, it doesn't really matter anymore. The gold is even, the XP is even because of the kill. Elendil is trading, but he's losing out on these trades.
Yeah, definitely seems a little worried, maybe? I don't know. I sometimes feel like instead of trusting in the scaling ability of the team comp, some teams tend to overforce it because they feel like they need to make something happen before a certain point, especially playing into Smolder. I do kind of get it. But Senna definitely needs to chill a little bit and just, you know, get... Yeah. He has to be careful. QQR can't move in quite yet, but is now at the party side as well. Nice flash coming out, but in the end, it's not going to be enough. Just slightly out of range here for Broad. And now with the Arcane Storm, they're trying to trade a little bit of damage. Kenny may have to sacrifice himself here just a little bit as the next kill is going over to Pop, who's having a really comfortable early game here. 3rd kill onto the Xin Zhao. That will be one disgusting jungler.
One huge jungler. Akers has ult as well to get off the grubs. And I don't really know why Lankafor's here. It's a great read by Zeta to move with his jungler off the reset. But you just saw Pop finish the Chemtech Dragon. It's pretty... I'm not going to say obvious, but it's more of an indication that he has recalled and will be coming off the reset. So I think Lankafor just sees a slight timing opportunity and misreads it. And Kenny dies for it. Lankafor blows his flash for it. And the grubs are now gone. Broad and friends amassing a 1.4k gold lead at 8 minutes. I came in saying, oh, it's going to be a really slow game. No! They've been throwing themselves at each other.
But you know, I like that because sometimes I feel like, especially when teams draft something like Smolder, they tend to overlook that they still need to do some work in the early game, right? And sometimes they are getting overwhelmed by the fact that they need time to scale, and then, you know, the game's over before the scaling is even finished. So I like this, that they actually managed to get some work done with Mom coming over for the first time this game. Doesn't result in a kill, but Elendil definitely having a really hard time. Manages to, you know, be up in CS just a little bit, but it doesn't really matter at this point so far.
Yeah, I think that's going to even out as that base is going to force him to lose 6 CS to the tower here. Akers able to amass a bit of a gold lead. What I'm more surprised about is Port didn't call Akers to the grubs to get a free ult stack.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that just came off timing, I missed it, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I feel like as a Cho'Gath player, you're always looking for the freest non-minion stacks possible, because you can only get up to 6 minion stacks.
Well, let's see if there's some more action coming up as we're getting caught in the jungle. It's a bit of a weird situation here between River and jungle. Everyone is split up. Kenny on the side finds a nice magnet storm, but goes down immediately. Senna ult trying to buy some more time. Reset coming through, but it's just not enough. Lunkafor going down, and now Elendil has to run for the hills. Does have flash and barrier, but maybe doesn't necessarily want to use those. Getting slowed now, the flash coming out. Thumbs up from Spark. But they're looking to go for the dive here.
Yeah, absolutely. This wave can be pushed so fast. No, Zeta doesn't even care about the wave.
Oh my god, Zeta doesn't care, but he's getting rooted in turret range. Maybe there is the return kill. Shutdown for Elendil, important, but lost both flash and barrier and died anyways. And it's the 5th kill to Pop. That is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, this Xin Zhao is on an absolute rampage. They touched on it in draft. Like, you don't give Pop Xin Zhao. He's really good at this. Yeah, he is pretty good at this.
Obviously.
You're not wrong, Jess. You're here for a reason, clearly. I don't know why Lunkafer keeps going for these play. He's playing like he's the jungler with 5 kills, right?
Yeah.
JB there committing the Spirit Rush to get the charm onto QQR. Just the 2 champions, the Viego and the Ahri, they just weren't able to output enough with Zeta just disrupting the fight. They're not able to put enough damage onto the Victor, which means the reset comes in so late that it basically doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're just caught behind enemy lines there. And I did some research because I was looking into what else does Pop play a lot. He has played a bit of Udyr, which has been buffed on 2511. So let's see if that one is an option at some point here in this series, as Akers finds a nice knock up against Loopy. Has to be a bit careful though. Both of those are level 10 as the Call of the Forge God comes out, but in the end, Loopy actually manages to go for the solo bolo on top lane. Well played.
Yeah, really nice from Loopy, able to get, I think that was triple brittle off there, negating the rupture from Cho'Gath with the Bellows Breath, and yeah, Akers just forgot, oh wait, Ornn's a burst mage, as Zeta wants another kill onto Elendil.
Yep, definitely looking for it as Pop is on the side again, and the damage output is enormous here as both of the mid laners are coming in as well. Senna ultimate trying to buy some time, trying to buy some space. Mom and the Arcane Storm both part of the party now, but it looks as if everyone kind of took some damage and they don't want to force anything more. Oh, I was wrong. JB with the Spirit Rush getting the kill. Very important kill here for the mid laner of Bandits, as they are now looking to possibly move towards this Drake. It would be their first mutual objective of the game. And yeah, it's not going to be contested. Pop is down. Well played in the end by the Bandits.
Yeah, really nice. It was really on a knife's edge there where the Bandits would be able to get out alive. 3 flashes, I believe, on their side from the bot lane, and Lunkafer having to be blown with how strong Pop was. But Shutdown goes over to JB. He also gets 2 tidy stacks on his Darkseal, which is pretty damn nice for him. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Akers just being a bit of a plate merchant here. Oh, gets that 4th one as well.
Ooh.
That's 4 versus 5. Well, sorry, That's 4 versus 0 plates in the top side. So Akers is significantly up in gold, even though he did get solo killed.
Akers is looking for something here. Maybe he just wants to be able to,
coming.
manage the wave. Underneath the turret, doesn't want to give up too much, but Elendil is alone now. Knock-up hits, he's 2 levels ahead. But he's getting silenced. Let's see if there is anything else they can do. Another knock-up hitting as Kenny is looking for the engages, but they are just at a numbers disadvantage. The only thing Kenny can do is run away at this point. Lankafor coming in as well. But it's just a little bit too late, and they wanted to go for the lane swap to possibly, give Elendil a bit of an easier time, but in the end, he's just gonna die.
Lankafor doesn't have flash here.
So be very careful. Arcane Storm coming out. He's getting stunned. He's not able to move anywhere. Akers hits another knockup, and now Broad are here to clean up this fight. Honeyfruit is being used as well. Nice stun here from the side of Bandits, but over the wall, Pop goes in for the 6th kill of the game. And
That's
even
terrible.
Akers got 2 kills here. We just said, ooh, like in that 1v1, it didn't look too good, but here he is back in the game, getting all these platings and kills. That's a rich man.
Yeah, and a Cho'Gath ahead is terrifying.
Yep.
Especially for champions like Lankafor, who really need to dive in and then basically drop all your abilities and pray you have enough damage to reset. If a Cho'Gath silences you, your ult is your main way out because it buffers crowd control. So if you can't do that and he immediately feasts you, team fight's over.
Yeah.
If the Jaeger's not resetting, then the Ahri's not resetting. And if that happens, then your team comp kind of falls apart.
Yep. Absolutely. They even
I'm still ahead?
Yep, and they got first turret as well. That's so much gold being funneled into Broad and Friends here. They are now at a chill 3k gold lead in minute 17. And we're looking at the individual gold. You can see that's a lot. Like, it's almost 2k just on top lane, which is crazy.
I'm
In jungle.
shocked that in jungle it's only a 500
Yep.
lead. What?
I don't know.
I know Lankafor's farming well, but like, okay, fine, that's 5 kills where I'm
Yep.
standing. So,
And
okay,
what
yeah,
do we
farm
learn?
needs more than kills.
Kills don't matter. Farm. Just farm. Get your items. Have fun, guys. As we're looking to see another lane swap here, we're getting the ultimate. Nice flash though from QQR. He's getting charmed underneath the turret though, going down as he should. I mean, if you're committing 3 members and 2 ultimates, you should definitely get a kill out of that. However, that means that Broad have free reign over the Herald Pit. No chance to contest that. At least the cross-map play coming through here with that bot lane tier 1 turret being picked up. Important to get something back here for Bandits, but I mean, Pop has Shelly now. They can actually just look to open up the map even further.
Yeah, I love the cross map actually, because Lankafor wasn't in a position. Oh, never mind. As a fight breaks out, Sean misses. Maybe
a lot of
nothing
abilities
comes of it.
being missed.
Zeta?
Oh, Zeta wants to go in, even uses the ultimate. Now we're getting all the engages, all of the TPs, Akers and QQR both coming in. QQR fresh out of the base. And they pick up the first kill onto Kenny, who tried to get some work done there. But now they're chasing Lankafor and JB. Zeta is an absolute psychopath. Manages to stay alive. Pop with the Crescent Guard. Obviously bringing in that fake tankiness, and the Feast of Akers finishes the job off. Very well played.
It's correctly named, Alistair, I'll tell you that, because that was absolute unbreakable will coming out from Zeta. Just pulling the trigger twice towards near death there. Really nice TP timers. Akers just came straight into the fight, and immediately, the moment this Cho'Gath arrived, Bandits scattered. 1 went right, 2 went left. As we're seeing, yeah, initially the JB charm goes wide, but Kenny is really stuck in here as Zeta engages. Then the TP immediately channeled, and Spark's able to free hit, and Porp's just basically gonna walk at them. And yeah, Bandits can't do anything.
That's crazy. Akers as well, already such a wall for them to move into. Which again raises the question, who's gonna kill that guy? Who's gonna do it, as Pop is just looking for the next one? We're coming out of the replay straight into the next fight. TP coming through here from Loopy. They want to go for this Drake. They want to get their dragon stacking going. It's kind of maybe a slight win condition or at least something they can do to buy some time as Shelly is being spawned and brought. They decide we have the 3 Void Grubs, we have the Herald, we might as well just go for the push here on mid lane. Second charge will come out as they're looking to maybe get even more, but the engages are hitting over the wall. And Lankafor is in a little bit of a flanking position here. Call of the Forge God has been silenced, so the ultimate not doing too much work. Important shutdown though for Elendil, as Spark has called his mom, but she only tickled Bandits here. Now being slowed and stunned, and maybe this is a way for them to go back into it, but Loopy with the Magnet Storm trying to find another engage here, being picked up in the end as the Arcane Storm is growing and putting in all the work. Lasers over the wall, and we can see the double kill for Spark coming through. And this is a scaling little dragon. Straight from hell, if you ask me.
200 stacks at bang on 20 minutes.
That is crazy.
Spark is so far ahead. That Essence Reaver Rapid Fire Cannon means he's able to put out so much damage from such a big distance. Elendil is just like completely dwarfed in this fight. So it's a great pick right onto Akers here, and they're thinking, we're in a 4v5. This is great, we got a charm onto QQR, but QQR and Spark are able to buy so much space. Zeta's going to play bodyguard here, which is great, and then the Arcane Storm just wreaks havoc. Over-engage here from Lunkifer and Loopy here. They try and pick up the Alistair, but Lunkifer dies first, and then Spark's able just to chase down, tries to get the Ouchie onto JB to slow him down, maybe go for another kill, but that goes wide, unfortunately. But once again, another one fight for Bron and Friends, going up to... That's, yeah, they've rested on a 3.5k gold lead for a while now. Sure, Bandits got the dragon, remember, at the start of this entire play, but mid-tier 1 went down. Now Kenny looking for Spark, but that dragon's got wings and is able to just fly away.
Yeah, as they're at least looking to maybe pick up this mid lane tier 1 turret, would be really important for them in order to be able to contest for these objectives, but minion wave being cleared within a second here. Spark with the stacks, obviously also insane wave clear that he brings to the table. And I mean, it kind of gets me wondering, while we can see them losing a lot on the side lane as well, with Akers constantly pushing in on that top lane, it keeps me wondering what their options are, as now Kenny might be caught out here. The damage output from Spark is just, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's illegal. That was his 5th kill within like 5 minutes. That is nuts.
You're asking what the options are. Kenny's option is the ground, as once again he falls his 6th death of the game. Unfortunately, he's the only person. Well, he has to dive in first, right? Loopy will normally be using the Ornhorn, but you're using Rel to get her face in first to the fight, which means, yeah, she's just been dying more than anyone else. Rod and Friends take this opportunity to start out the Atakan. Even though Akers is in the top river, slowly walking down, they're just so confident that Spark, I think he would have crested over the execute range by now. Or a little split from the rest of his team.
They're looking for a bit of a flank here, Zeta and QQR, as QQR is getting through. The Call of the Forge God coming out there, trying to pick them apart, but we can see Spark again kiting away, doing so much work now with Akers in the area too. There's nothing you can do, it's the triple kill. Can he make it more? Nope, it's at least not a pentakill as he goes for the quadra here. And you can see that Arcane Storm is huge as we're looking at this in the replay right away.
So the Ornhorn gets used on QQR, who's able to flash to complete range here. Then Zeta's able to come in, get a 3-man pulverized there. And yeah, Spark and Port, they're just so strong, right? It doesn't matter. Spark comes out of this fight at 100% HP. He was completely chilling. He didn't blow the cleanse. He didn't blow the ult. He was just fine. He was safe that entire fight. And I'm questioning why Bandits decided to fight that in the first place. Right? You're down so much gold. Now I might add a 9k gold deficit. Your Rel's coming back from base. And yeah, you're throwing your Call of the Forge God into the far distance onto a Victor you know has flash. It was just very disjointed.
It's really crazy. It makes you wonder, especially with how the patches have improved Smolder again for a while,
Yeah.
why the prio is still towards that Senna, because you were on blue side. You could have also picked the Smolder, if I'm not wrong. They picked it on 3 on red side, I think.
I'm going to be honest, if I was Elendil, I would not pick Smolder into Spark, because Spark would jam something like Lucian, I feel, and just ruin my entire game.
Fair point. Lucian also, of course, one of the stronger ADCs on the current patch. As we're looking towards a possible Baron fight here with that spawning in 30 seconds. Drake would be up, but no one's really interested as Zeta goes in, goes forward. Ultimates are flying again. Mom being called, but they need to find a way to hit Sparky in the team fight, but he can free hit again. It's another double kill. It's another huge Arcane Storm. And they have a wave. They can move further forward. Akers has done the work for them to just move towards this base, pick up this tier 2 turret standing with all the grubbies, looking for another knock-up here as JB. They use the Spirit Rush to make it out. And now they're turning towards the Baron, and they should also be able to maybe even pick up the Drake right after.
And Spark is currently 11-0-5.
Yep. Disgusting.
Nuts. No, I just wish we still had Sword of the Occult in the game and see how much AD we could get this Smolder. But
oh my god!
With this crit buffs to Smolder's Q, he does so much damage now, especially when he's this accelerated.
Yeah.
Like, with his Q now exploding behind, because Zeta's always landing a minimum of a 2-man Pulverize, Spark is able to spread his damage out so much. Then you've got the Victor, who we haven't really talked about QQR's damage that much this game, but now that he's got that fully upgraded Arcane Storm, he's outputting so much consistent DPS.
It's crazy how mid lane is the only lane where it's remotely close when it comes to gold, as yes, the Drake goes towards Bandits. They pick up their soul point here, but at what cost? JB in the bush, kind of hiding, manages to make it out alive, but kind of has to sell his jungler there.
I was gonna say, why didn't Nunkiver just Heartbreak her out? But at this point, like, the Sinzal's just kind of falling over the wall.
Yep.
So you might as well keep it for the impending fight. I say impending fight. I'm just certain there is one, because Bandits haven't stopped fighting this game. So, it's probably gonna be one in 40 seconds, is my guess now, as Brod and Friends push in both this mid and bot tower. They're able to shred through these towers. Elendil can't do anything as he's jumped on.
Yep, he's getting picked up here, I think. He does have Loopy on the side trying to buy him some space, buy him some time. And now with Uncafor being back up, maybe they can find something here. Maybe, just maybe, Brod and Friends stepped a little too far forward as Zeta goes down very, very low. Call of the Forge God coming through as well as Mom. But there is it again. Spark putting in the work. Shutdown though for JB. Is this enough to buy them at least a second here to keep their base alive? It is a 1-for-1 trade. But Brod, they are wounded. They have to step back, at least for a little there. As they're going for the Baron empowered resets and looking to get some more items on the board. But it's rough.
It's very bad. Like, it's a very bad situation for the Bandits. Their mid inhibitor wasn't fully taken. Brod and Friends decided to prioritize the fight over taking that. I don't know how, if that eagerness was warranted, but you know what? It's realistically fine. Just looking over this Bandit scoreboard, JB is 5-1-2.
Yeah.
He's actually what's been keeping Bandits in this game, because
100%.
his charms in some of these fights have been completely pivotal. Now, Elendil, you just can't walk up this far. Like, there's no one around you. You don't have your Rel. Loopy's walked off to mid lane to say hi to the Cho'Gath. So now, yeah, immediately baits. I'll say baits. Port forward and forces the flash out. Overall, it's a 1-for-1. But once again, Spark is going to get another kill, which means more stacks towards this Smolder.
And you've said it, the Ahri is kind of like the last person to keep Bandits alive here at this point. Only the only lane actually staying some sort of even, as we saw some very fun interaction with the Grubby there. But Brod are back in the base, trying to force down these inhibitors. They do have a bit of a wave on mid lane, so they should be able to move further forward to pick up that inhib as well. And now with minions coming in from all three sides, Bandits find themselves in a position where all they can do is either force a fight or turtle and lose the game, but they're not getting anything with JB being down. That's your main damage source gone, and it's done and dusted. That is just an absolute powerhouse of damage coming out of Broad and Friends, who have dominated Bandits in this first game.
Can
it's
he die in
another
base?
double kill for Spark. You definitely can, but they don't want to do the fountain dive. They don't want to force anything more. The KDA is pretty as is, and therefore, first game over to Broad. What a performance.
What a huge performance from Broad. And if I'm in the Bandits camp, I'm very much shaking now. Because one of Lunkifer's main champions has just been blown up.
Yep.
Right? Off, and then, like, a really good early lead, like catching Pawpaw invading your jungle, to be completely run over by this Sinzao.
It was crazy, and it all started in the early game, right? We had that one jungle interaction where it actually looked nice from the side of Bandits, right? They picked up that early kill onto the Ahri, and we were like, yes, great, this is exactly what they want to do. But then one bot lane fight later, it all scaled out of control. I, to this moment, don't understand how Smolder had 200 stacks at 20 minutes. I hardly managed to get that.
He actively
all?
farmed the enemy for stacks. There was so much fighting. Remember, every time a Smolder ability keeps an enemy champion, he gets a stack. So all that fighting in bot lane, like he was calling Mum in, that's immediately 3 stacks.
True.
Then his W comes out, that's 2 more. Like, it didn't even matter about the minions. Half of his stacks were just from the Bandits.
Absolutely crazy, but very, very well played here by Broad. And back to the drawing board for Bandits. For us, it's going to a little bit of a break before the analysts are trying to take apart what happened in that game and obviously
Good luck.
prepare you for the next one. Good luck to the analysts. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. After what was correctly predicted by our analysts, a broad win in quite a dominant fashion. I'm not gonna lie. That was a game of all time, and it was a bit of a callback to the Lions Crew days when that was dead center Smolder meta and Spark was going absolutely mental. We do have a couple of clips ready, but first and foremost, Bloxer, we'll start with you. Thoughts on that game?
So, we didn't like the draft. And a lot of our problems with the draft came to fruition very quickly in this game, right? The game starts out with a little bit of a pause where we don't quite get to see exactly what happens to Porp, why he ends up dying, first of all, attempting to get a little bit of an invade off. We can make some assumptions of what happens. And then beyond that point, that was pretty much the only good moment that we got to see out of the entirety of Bandits throughout the early game. Something we didn't really get to touch on while we were talking about the draft was the fact that, yeah, technically Smolder lanes are weak, but when you pick yourself Senna Rel into this Alistair and Smolder, yeah, the Senna's much weaker, much worse during the early game, and we really saw it. Where in the bottom lane, they were just getting kicked around. It meant that the map was open for Porp to be able to get a bunch of good ganks off. He was really able to focus down on this bottom side of the map, as we predicted, right? He could ignore the top side, he could ignore mid lane, and just play around these objectives around this bottom side, and it worked out so well. I think a lot of the issues in this game very much did just stem from the fact that the draft from the Bandits was... it was kind of whack. I'm not sure what they were really thinking, what lanes they were trying to play around. As we called out, right, where do you actually try to focus? The answer in this game was nowhere.
Yeah, Rob, anything to add? Any other thoughts?
Just that I think you look at it and you see a lot of comfort for Bandits, but a lot of it doesn't really synergize too well. Some odds decisions as well. I think Zeta getting his Alistair so late is another thing that really surprised us, because it is one of Zeta's best picks in support. And it does so. It's like pretty much the perfect support in that scenario. Denies Rel completely, denies your ability to access Smolder early completely. And I think just overall, Bandits, if you're going to go for this reset style draft with the Ari, with the Viego, you've got the Ornn top, but you then need a much more aggressive bot side so that Viego can actually get those kills early. And you need to not give them this Alistair, because you're giving over stuff that made Viego's life absolute hell this game. It was so hard for Lunkifer to play.
Certainly was. Now, first of our clips is ready and waiting for us, and things kind of, the early game was a bit choppy. It was a bit interesting. Bloxer, we'll throw this one to you. This is loopy.
Yeah, this is, again, when I said there were only one good moment and it was right at the very beginning, well, this was probably the second good moment that we got to see out of the Bandits. This is Loopy doing Ornn things, Ornn, the tank assassin, and all of the other things that copy pasta says, for good reason. This champion does a truly ridiculous amount of damage, and actually in this 1v1 he was looking pretty good, but these were small bright sparks right here for the team, and they were few and far between. Yeah, your Ornn is doing okay, gets a solo kill, but the Cho'Gath was fine, we're still getting plenty of stacks, and you can't carry as just an Ornn. He never got to the point where you could really full carry a game. That's almost impossible unless you're just repeatedly solo killing your opponents. Maybe you've got Hullbreaker, do it yourself on the towers as well. It was never going to happen. Like, yeah, that was a good moment, and we wanted to highlight a good moment out of the Bandits, but it was kind of one of the few that we got to see.
Yeah, it definitely was, and they say that Ornn is this mage, tank, assassin, paladin, warrior, ranger, marksman, support, everything under the sun type champion, and he kind of is, and we see it there. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. It was a bit unfortunate, you could say, for the Bandits. Our next clip is the first big team fight we saw this game, and Rob, I'm gonna throw this one across to you when the clip comes in, because I think this is where we really see just how strong Broad are as a team.
Yeah, and before this, we had seen JB pick up a couple kills, but everyone else on Bandits was so weak. And right here, you can see kind of the way that Broad likes to play. They all have a massive trust in each other, and they all move forward. This isn't a point where Smolder is strong. This isn't the point where, their late game comp has really come online. But still, they don't mind just constantly playing into you. They get that first kill on Kenny, and they just keep going. JB does have to flash out, does get away, but Lunkerfer ends up being punished kind of in response to this. And Lunkerfer had, again, I would say, an absolute mare of a game. I think he died like 9-10 times. This is a bit of a repeat of what we saw in the regular season game as well. And if Bandits want to come back into this, I think they're going to need a mental reset as well as a rejig and draft, because this was honestly a pretty statement win from Brod, who honestly we had questions on the review show, right? Synergy was there. I was there with Brackish Brit as well. We were like, Brod didn't look that great versus Inkwick. They looked really good in this game. Really, really on point so far.
Yeah, absolutely did. They came in all guns blazing, Spark looking on form as ever, QQR doing a great job of nullifying JB, and Porp, despite the early catch in enemy jungle, really did pull through and pick up where necessary. Now we've got one final replay to go through, and this is the fight around Atakan. And it's important to look at this because at this point in time, Elendil is sat on, I believe it was 68 stacks. Elendil is a full 10 minutes behind the curve for where he should be in terms of stacks at this point in the game. Yeah. Meanwhile, Spark is already at 225 minimum. He has that execute. 22 minutes and 50 seconds is the earliest indicator for those Smolder stacks, and that is incredible because the stacking AD carries are not meant to stack that fast. 25 minutes is roughly what you expect for the Smolder, but Senna should be at, by 25 minutes, Senna should be at roughly 150. So Elendil had been bullied so much in this game that not only allowed Spark to pull so far ahead of the curve, but it meant that Elendil was a solid 10-15 minutes behind the timer for where he needed to be for those stacks to actually mean something, and for his build to not just feel like a mosquito nipping at you time and time and time again.
The Senna did no damage. Nothing negative.
The Senna build is not meant to do damage until that 3-item point, right? You go static into cleaver into IE, and you don't do damage until you hit that IE. But you are constantly getting those stats throughout the game over first 2 items, and by the time you hit IE, you're sitting at about 60-70% crit chance because of how many stacks you picked up. We didn't see it from Elendil this game. We didn't see it at all, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think the Senna was it. Like you say, we need to see a bit of a rejigger in draft. Speaking of which, we should be going into draft relatively soon. I will wait and see if production have an update on that. The Bandits have opted to go back into the blue side, more importantly. So they do not believe that not having that counter pick was an issue. They believe there is still stronger picks they can take on blue 1 to allow themselves the room to outdraft and win their next game against Broad. And they have to win this next game if they do not want to go home.
This is it.
Yeah, maybe it's the Varus. They banned it on blue last game. To take a first pick Ari as much away from UQR as it was to give it to JB. I just want to expand on what they also did last year. A lot of time with Senna, you like seeing lots of frontline, right? Lots of chonky lads in front of her who can she can queue through. She's got loads of space to play, and then when you do get late game, she's given even more space from how much range she ends up getting. And what we saw this game was, when you have like Ari Diego, she didn't really have that same frontline you really want. She didn't have like a mage, like another mage, like an Azir next to her, right? Or she had this Ari who was playing off on angles, especially because they were so far behind. JB did try in this game to get multiple good charms. So I wonder if they're now going, okay, we're going to go back to blue side. We might not ban, if they do ban this Harass, I'd be surprised if they do, because I think it is still one of the best first pickable champions in the game. There's a few junglers maybe you could go for, but I think overall Varus is the sort of the bar in which you measure first picks for. But maybe they've just gone back there and say, actually, we should just play standard. We should just pick a standard draft. Let's not ban this Harass. Let's take away from Spark, play a more aggressive laning phase. However, maybe they surprise us. Maybe they go for an Ashe. I mean, if you think about what's first pickable at the moment, mages, but it's mostly Azir that's the first pick mage, and that was banned last game.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's not going to happen now, but I think what you do is you leave either Vi or Varus open. and you just say, okay, we either first pick the Varus or we let them have the Vi because we have answers to it. That's not going to happen this game unless they leave the Varus open. We will find out. So far, bans are identical to game number 1. Pantheon, the Vi, the Urgot, all off the table. We'll see if Broad and Friends keep their bans going. I imagine they will. I do not think it makes much sense to change up your bans, given how dominant that game 1 was. And the Tristana is going to be the adaptation for the Bandits.
They like banning that one. They banned that one up against Paragon as well. They also really like banning the Varus as well, both red and blue side. So they very much don't want to play or see on their opponents either of those two champions. I think Bandits, they need to go back to actually playing around Elendil in a way as well. That's how they were able to pick themselves up a couple of those victories versus Paragon, where they were having Elendil on something like the Jinx and a bunch of tanks in front of him, and you can play that game out. I like the idea of a Sylas, but as we were talking about a little bit in the green room as well, like, the best thing about Sylas is picking it into a bunch of great things that you have that you can grab for yourself later on. That is much better as an early game pickup for yourself. I think if you want the Sylas, awesome. Take it later in the draft, right? Don't pick it at this point when you can have it completely screwed up by not getting any of those great ultis to steal away.
This also doesn't let QQR kind of get his choice of mid lane matchup, right? Because they knew that Ari was going mid lane from the very first pick, so he said, okay, I'll take the Victor. It's a sort of free scaling matchup. I'll be happy to play that. And he was. He kind of, he had a decent score in the end. Not many kills, but not many deaths either. So interesting. A Porp on the Neferi. Now, this is very interesting. Haven't really seen this too much. Porp, we were saying before, is more of like a Nocturne, the Pantheon, the Vi. We see the Xin Zhao. But him on the Neferi has been a few times in solo queue, if I remember, but it's not something we've seen him playing comp. It's more of a sit back and wait kind of champ, right? You throw your Qs out, you look for your moment to go into the back line to take a target out immediately. So we see the Jhin as well. They're now playing a very odd style for Broad, right? We're seeing more facilitator for Spark, an aggressive jungler for Porp, like very aggressive carry style rather than aggressive facilitator.
What are they cooking for QQR or Akaza is the question. Like, these are not champions you take to just be about these champions. Of course, the Neferi can pop off. This is what I was also going to mention, right? We're talking about the Scion a ton as a great champion that could have potentially paired with the Senna. We just didn't see it. This champion is completely busted. We've also seen Lungfor play this Mundo in the jungle to great effect, and these are some beefy boys to sit in front of whatever it is that JB is going to play alongside this Varus for Elendil. I very much would like as well this to be the poke version of the Varus, right? You really don't need to be getting up close and personal at the moment. Oh, good lord. Oh.
Okay.
So Broad had a very cohesive draft. Broad had an excellently cohesive draft last game where they managed to get basically free scaling in every lane that they wanted. And this one, it feels like they've decided, okay, maybe they don't feel that confident with the Jhin and seeing two tanks. They've gone, we need some more pressure on the side here because Yorick is able to sort of push in the Scion. And it is an Aka's champion now. Aka's has played a decent amount of this Yorick. However, and you were saying about the Poke Varus, it's good. Yeah, exactly. But I think overall we're going to start leaning more on the side of the Bandits in this draft unless we see Broad bring out something really special in the support and in the mid role, because we already see a very cohesive draft. This is like almost the opposite of what we saw in the last game, where there was a lack of cohesion coming out of Bandits draft, and Broad were all on pretty much all on the same page. Xin Zhao pretty good disengaged champ, Victor good disengaged champ, space made for Smolder. In this game they're going, well, we've gone the Theory Jhin, so we've gone away from what our style is, where Spark is a lot of our carry and Porp is our facilitator. We flipped that one around a little bit. Now we're going to play Aka's pushing on sides against a double tank composition that we really are going to struggle to potentially kill as this game gets later. Very odd to see Broad make this pivot so far away when, honestly, last game was a bit of a masterclass from them. They're banning out these two mid laners, more of JB's standard mids in the Syndra and the Akali. I wonder where QQR wants to go here, because if another mid is banned for him, what's his pick? Are they going to leave it open for last pick and try and get a counter in mid and just go for lane counters and trying to win through that way?
I'm not going to lie to you. I think with that Yorick lock-in, you absolutely just say I'm going on hit Varus. Because you've got two tanks to hide behind, you pick an engage on support. The Varus can never die because on-hit builds give you so much access to things like Jack Show and so much, innate staying power. And Elendil has so much space to play the game. The Rise lock-in for QQR is definitely something worth talking about. The Rise just newly buffed on current patch. I believe we are on current patch on this TR.
Yeah.
So, this Rise definitely going to be quite a scary blue man to come up against. Flea is going to be the answer for JB.
Yeah.
Not something I personally remember seeing JB play a lot of. the champion is incredibly strong, and suddenly you have a very good brawling mid AD duo behind a double front line, and if this Rakan gets locked in, really solid, reliable engage, you can play very short range front to back with so much space being bought by Loopy and Lunka that you don't have to worry about anything. You can let Elendil go on hit Varus and just absolutely rinse through the enemy team, because you're 9 times out of 10 going to be playing 3v5, 4v5, because, I mean, QQR and AK is going to be on sides.
I was pretty sure this was going to be a Talia lock-in right here, because it pairs so well alongside the Scion. At this point, as Broad, if you pick yourself any fight, you'd better be damn sure you're going to win it, and quickly, because the roam potential between Lopi and JB, they're going to be there with you almost immediately. You need to win these fights very, very quickly. It's going to be the Leona locked in, which works fine up alongside the Jhin, but is nothing particularly special, really. You're still going to be able to farm just fine as the Varus. I think you're right, Luna, in the on-hit Varus can happen here. I still prefer poke in this situation. I think the poke pairing that you've got between the cleavers, those piercing arrows, and then whatever JB can be flinging at people really helps as well. My feelings right here with this Broad composition, right, is they pick a very overall solid composition for themselves in the previous game, and they beat the heck out of the Bandits. This one is a hands check of a composition, right? This is, hey, actually, we think we're just better than you in a lot of these lanes, but this is really hard to play out normally for Broad, and then into what the Bandits have for themselves. Yeah, I really like what Bandits have put together. I think this draft is much more competent than we saw previously.
Much more cohesive. That's all there is really to say. I like the Leona against 2 immobile carries, but other than that, I think this draft from Bandits is just way more cohesive. I still think Broad are just better. I think they are just a better team, and I think that first game really showed it. But if this was name place off, I'd be leaning towards Bandits.
Yeah,
it's literally flipped. Again, guys, 3 words or less. Who's taking the game? Rob, we'll start with you this time.
I'm gonna say Broad, but Bandits, this is a better chance they had last game.
Boxer?
Yeah, I think Prod, but Bandits, at least it's fun.
Okay, well, you've heard it from the analysts, ladies and gentlemen. We will throw back over to Melee and Rory to see what their thoughts are heading into the game.
Thank you so much, guys. And honestly, what are our thoughts? Because I think individually there are some really nice picks in this draft for both sides.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a who got the better hands here type of match.
Yeah. I think late game Bandits just have such an advantage. Just like in cohesive fights, Sion's able to join fights while matching the Yorick on sides very effectively. I think this Yorick is a stinker of a pick when Gragas is available. I'm just going to say that right away. But as we're getting into game here, it is likely going to be the Poke Varus with that Comet selected. You rarely see Comet and on hit.
True. Yeah.
And then, other than that, nothing too surprising. The Fairy Jungle does just tend to take the Conqueror, even though Electrocute can be quite potent. Obviously, there's 3 tanks in her way, so she's going to have to.
Yeah, that's also something I wanted to mention, because especially when it comes towards that Mundo pick, it is historically known as something you cannot kill at a certain point.
Yes.
And I think that's what, apart from all the other factors, of course puts Broad on a bit of a timer here, where they have to... is that Nafiri twerking at us? Holy... Okay.
She's a...
Slay.
My dog's done that motion before, so I'm going to say twerking, because
Okay,
I don't want to come up with the other option, the other thing the dog could be doing there.
Look, I love how we always, we say we don't want to mention that other thing, but by saying that we mention it, so I love it. Awesome. Awesome.
Is Loki going to invade blue again?
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like they are going for that late invade once more. They're even trying to spot out everyone. Zeta has to move away. And Lankafor gets that buff once more. And let's see if they can make it work this time. They did have an okay early game for a bit their last game, until it all fell apart. Scaling-wise, they do have some very nice picks there as well.
Yeah, it was very much good until it wasn't for the Bandits.
Right.
Surely Porp is not going to cross-map and die again when JP has push. That would be crazy for that to happen, right, guys?
That would be, yeah, there is no chance that is happening. I'm actually very interested to see his Neferi performance. I think Neferi has been one of the strongest carry junglers in the game, of course. So we can see some early poke coming out here, and very nice damage dealt. Even with the arrows coming through, they do have to respect the level 2 advantage here, Broad, and therefore stay away a little bit. Hook goes just wide. Therefore, a little silent. Oh no, he's not actually back in the enemy jungle.
I think he invaded and failed. I think Lunkerford got there in time. Could we pan over to the jungle quickly?
I mean, look, if that's what happened, I'm not even gonna ask.
Bob got the blue buff.
He got the blue, it was a smite fight and he won it, and now we're getting a route onto the mid lane. As JB has to be a bit careful, but Pop not quite hitting the desired target here. But a target, very good, word to use when talking about Neferi, because she can become untargetable. Not though Elendil. Elendil is very far from untargetable, very targetable indeed. First blood over to Broad, as he loses both of his summoners as well.
Really, really well played by this Broad bot lane. Zeta walks up to Kenny to threaten going all in on the Nautilus, but actually Zenith blades through the Naut onto the Varus, and Spark, knowing that the play's about to happen after the communication, immediately lands the W, and yeah, Elendil's as good as dead.
Another rough early game for Elendil here, because, not that many CS. Yeah, and he's also not gaining a lot from that bit of wave that was left underneath this turret. They interrupt the backports, but at what cost? As Kenny is now getting re-engaged, has to flash out, flash for flash being traded here though. Zeta wants to come in, and Pop is in the area. Tries to, get there in time. That hook is that was... Okay, I'm not sure. Did he try to hook onto Pop there, and then hooked onto the minion? Because no matter what your plan was, you would have been in the middle of all your enemies.
You know what? I've been fishing one time, and the advice I took from it is sometimes you just have to cast a line and pray.
Okay, fair. Fair point.
Unfortunately, the prayer wasn't answered, and Kenny had no way out. But Lunkerford now getting a bit of invade after reading Pop recalling. QQR not able to stop him, probably.
I mean, look, Lankafor is very low here. As Pop flashes over the wall and gets the next kill. It's the feat of warfare secured for Brother Friends again. And again, you're feeding both Spark and Pop, which were by far the most valuable players in that last game, as Elendil... Yeah, I'm sorry. Honestly, my mental would be broken. If this is my early game after what happened last game... Man, oh man, that is rough.
A Neferi getting any form of kill pre-6 is so insane on that champion, because generally she can't gank that well.
Yeah.
Like, before she gets her ultimate, she just runs at you and hopefully you're overextended, right? She has no crowd control. She has one dash, which she really wants for the damage. So her being relatively even in CS with Lunkerfer, and a kill up, basis with that pickaxe longsword. Oh, it's so good for Paul.
Yeah, he's going to be very comfortable here. Moving on in that early game as Loopy kind of TP'd into the cage. And I love the Maiden. Look, my thing with the Maiden is sometimes she looks omega useless. I've seen several clips of people where Maiden was just standing underneath the turret, not doing anything at all. So I love to see that Akkers is putting her to work just a little bit, as we see another possible gank here on bot lane coming in. But Lankafor is in the area. Maybe they can make it work.
Maybe a dragon take care. Pop's going to aggro it, but JB is in the area. Pop's still 5, so definitely can't commit to this one. QQR is closing, but JB's on the ward, and the right is right here.
Okay, they're going in. Weaver's Wall going wide as JB is getting caught, rooted, stunned, CC'd for life. You're not moving anywhere except towards the gray screen. Very sad. That Weaver's Wall could have been the way out, but that was very well played again from Broad.
Bit confusing what JB was looking for there, because you know the right is coming because you can see him on your minimap, him de-pushing the wave. My god, that made him damage! Yeah, just constantly meowing, mocking Loopy. It reminds me of a time I played versus a Warwick top who kept spamming quotes. and it drove me insane. It's that, but a constant meow as the maiden completely destroys him.
That's just like when you play that Kokmar skin, the Pugmar skin, and it starts barking whenever you use your W. It's hilarious. But we can see Loopy ulting towards the top lane, tries to get at least some of that CS underneath the turret, because the lead for Ackers, if we look at the minions...
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's there, yeah.
Pretty significant. It's so funny you mentioned that Pugmore skin, because I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a Chinese video where they're playing Pugmore with Lulu. And there's like a pentagon. It's just fixed in my mind. Anyone in chat who's seen this video, it went quite viral a few years ago, and knows exactly what I'm quoting about right now. And just every time I see it, I hear the voices. It's Pop now going in for a very easy kill in the bot lane.
That was the call of the pack right there. He's calling the pack once more. Double kill, or like... Was it a double? No, they shared the kills. Okay, fair. They shared the kills like brothers. Awesome. 2 ults used, but honestly, if that's the outcome, you take it. 3 kills on your ADC, 3 kills on your carry jungler. It couldn't be better, but I like this, you know, try from Bandits here, saying, okay, we can possibly look for a cross-map play. The jungler is on bot side. Maybe we can pick up these void grabs, as they are now not fighting the grabs, but they are fighting the maiden, you know? Kill is kill, take her down. It's like an additional member. It should count as a kill, if you ask me.
Lunkifer has maximum dosage here, so should be alright, but Port's able to come in and deny those 3 grubs. Actually, Kenny's caught no flash here, but the blast cone takes him to demise.
Yeah, Kenny's dead. Not sure what else one can say about that. That's the 4th kill again for Pop, who's having an absolute... insane early game. Yes, he's falling behind in farm a little bit. Who
cares?
But honestly, it doesn't really matter to him, because we've seen what happened last game. And it was the exact same. He fell behind in farm, but his ganks always played out very well, which gave him exactly what he needed.
0-6, this Bandits bot lane are right now. We were wondering why they banned Varus so much on blue side. This may be one of the reasons, because remember, they did initially lose that 2v2 even before Porp got involved. Yeah. And look, the Nefari's been bot lane much more than the Mundo, but that was really capitalizing on an already ahead lane rather than winning the lane for Broad and Friends.
Yeah, and you always have to wonder if a pick like that, because also the analyst mentioned that it was something they have done on blue side and on red side. You know, if it is a pick they are actually not comfortable playing, which of course makes you wonder, why would you pick it in a match that could, you know, delete you from the tournament? Yeah. It's a bit of a question mark for me, if I'm honest.
Because I was expecting Elendil and Kenny to maybe jam an Ashe Seraphine.
Oh yeah, or some hyper carry, you know? Some hyper carry that he likes to play, like the Jinx. We've heard so much about as well. So I'm just a little confused.
Last time I checked in on Elendil on his op.gg, he was an Ashe one trick. That was a few weeks ago, so things may have changed on the most recent patch, but this guy knows his way around a bow. Unfortunately, it's just not viruses.
He does have 99 games of Jinx, so I'm just wondering if you should have picked that instead, but a lot of what ifs, of course, they need to make do with what they have right now, and to be honest, they don't have so many options right now to, you know, come back. They need to try and buy some time, maybe contest a Drake in a minute, and possibly not die again on bot lane, as Pop is getting spotted here.
So coming.
Kenny and Elendil should be aware of that, but you said it, QQR in the area too. JB will take some time, maybe looking for a nice Weaver's Wall here. Can they buy the time they need as Elendil is down again? Barrier being used from Spark though. Spark is going down. Nice Weaver's Wall coming in as the call of the pack underneath the turret is being used. Oh my god, but he manages to stay alive for so long. Zeta picking up a little bit of turret aggro there as it ends up being the double kill for Pop. And JB, I mean, I like that you try to come in, but there's not so much you can do, especially with the ADC being down in the first few seconds of the fight, really.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, the good news for Bandits is they got a kill!
Woo!
Woo! Unfortunately, it's because here Pop, you see, uses the W, which gets rid of tower aggro, and then Spark, unfortunately, is the closest person to the tower, so it aggro's onto him. Forcing him to get out. But with this one shutdown, I'm sure JB is able to take over the game. I'm just kidding, but you know, it could always happen. I've seen crazier things.
Honestly, we always talk about how every game is throwable too, you know? Like,
oh, absolutely.
You can always get too cocky and make mistakes. But I think it comes to show that even though Brod's draft might be not necessarily harder to execute, but in the long term, not the greatest draft. If we're looking at the scaling possibilities on the side of Bandits, they are putting themselves in the best position possible. Because especially when you know you're on a timer, you need to have that snowball-y of a game in order to make it work. And they are doing a great job so far. Because they're looking to maybe make a play onto JB here. Has to flash the solar flare, but now they're finding a root on Kenny. Kenny is rooted, stunned for life, and a curtain call. Doesn't even have to put in the work so much. JB manages to stay alive as Elendil thinks he's getting some alone time, but the call of the pack puts you in the midst of your jungler and all his little friends, and
this time,
you don't have any sums. Oh my god, yes. Yep, no sums, ult into nothing. That was Ruffy McTuffy, my friends.
Yeah, really bad. It's a lot. Every once in a while we pan over to top lane, Akers and Luffy are just like, yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
Luffy's got the experience of watching his bot lane go 0-10 while he's trying to scale towards his first item.
You know, in my solo queue games, it's always the other way around. When I look towards top lane, it's horrible. As we're getting a Weebless wall in here, they really want to make this play onto Akers. Zeta is in the area, and the Maiden, of course, also there, as QQR is come in with his own ultimate. And now, again, Bandits have overstepped. They've overstayed their welcome. As Loopy has to use the ultimate to make it out alive. But I'm not even sure that's enough. Pob doesn't have the call of the pack ready just yet, but it doesn't matter. They don't need it. They don't need it. Depth charge on bot lane, hits onto Spark, who's running for the hills. As fast as a Jhin can run, not really that fast, but there's just no damage. There's no damage.
No damage. Elendil doesn't have the Chains of Corruption for about another 10 seconds. So, while the play is nice, it's not as nice as you were hoping. They do likely get a tower here. Actually, no, this forest just has no items. There's no way. Elendil just sitting on a Dirk and a Rectix. Oh,
it's so rough.
What's coming?
It's hard to even say something, you know, positive or hopeful here, as that was a very nice engage once more here from Zeta with the curtain call from downtown. Elendil really doesn't have anywhere to go. If the curtain call doesn't pick you up, the doggos surely will. And he goes down again, and we're looking at the individual gold. Again, mid lane looks decent. Top lane so far ahead here. Akers is doing a great job. Bot lane as well. Very one-sided, of course. For me, it's, again, in the hands of JB, but there's not so much you can do. I'm not sure you can 1v9 this at all.
You can't put this on JB. I was joking earlier, but actually saying JB will save this game. Definitely won't now.
You said it. Call up the pack once more, JB. Yeah, it's a slaughter fest. What do you want me to say? It's really hard to, you know, find hope for a team when it is that one-sided. Oh no, Elendil has to use the Chain of Corruption. Good news is someone has to tank the turret aggro, as Lunkafor is moving in as well, but Pop will just tumble over the wall. And that's that.
So, the good news is...
There is good news.
This is currently... Trust me on this. Currently it's an 8k gold lead, right? Yeah. To Bron and Friends. The good news is for Bandits, if they do lose, it won't have been the biggest UK gold deficit this week.
That's great.
After the Los Ratones game 1.
You know, the 20k gold lead, you mean?
So, you know, small wins. Lunkafor, gets a small win, but it's going to pay his life for it here.
I mean, he's putting some damage or something onto Pop, who doesn't really seem to care so much as the root comes through, and now he's just caught in the enemy jungle. Tries to flash over the wall, it's just not quite enough. As Spark picks up the next kill, and Pop has free reign over this Herald.
Yeah, unfortunately, this corporate mundo is going bankrupt right now.
Absolutely. He is, again, up in farm, you know? He's so far ahead in farm, but it's just not
He's down 9 kills, Miller.
That's I'm just trying to be hopeful, you know? As Loopy needs a lot of hopium as well when he thinks about making it out of this one as the Solar Flare hits. And the Maiden finishes off the rest. Dragon has spawned, Herald has been taken down. The passive doing a lot of work. Okay, Loopy, take the shutdown. You go, King. Well done.
You know, that's the second solo kill, right? Onto Akers.
Right. I mean, yeah. Basically, it was a 1v3 kill. We let that count as Spark a little too far forward. Important shutdown again for the 80 carry for Elendil, who's had a horrible series. Very nice use of the plant there, as Pop is now being, I don't want to call it chased, because it's still in a Fury, so can run.
Get Dragon here. Right, you could just go Dragon instead of chasing Pop, who's in a Fury, famously slippery even. I'm not sure about this decision making here. Is QQR's able just to go onto Kenny now?
They are TPing in. So Bandits definitely want to go for a play here, just not quite sure what a set play is going to be. As they're looking to pick up not only the Drake, but also a turret on bot lane. That's the good news. Zeta doesn't quite find the engage here. They're not really committing for the Drake. They messed up their timing.
I don't know what the decision making there was. Like, yeah, we can get a suggestion of a blue buff because it's not even completed, and wait for Spark to respawn, right? And now Bandits just can't walk in. The long range crowd control from Spark locks up Kenny. He flashes, just lives, but Zeta doesn't care. Zeta's tanky as hell, and that's third Dragon going over to Broad.
Damn, that's soul point in minute 20. And I mean, look, we got some signs of life there from Bandits. Some nice catches.
Yeah, some shutdowns, yeah.
Broad possibly overstepping just a little bit. And that's exactly what I mean when it comes to, you know, you can always throw a game because people get cocky. That's just how we are, you know? We see something, we think we're ahead, we want to get it. But messing up that Drake timing, man.
It's very unlike Broad and Friends to throw random shutdowns as well, so I'm quite surprised by that. If you can't tell the sarcasm dripping off my voice, then I need to make it more obvious next time. Atakan is currently the only neutral objective up. Baron's not up for another 4 minutes, as we're seeing Broad actually collapse on the top side, have the Realm Warp, but there's 3 bandits here, but Lunkerfur doesn't have Flash.
Oh lord, he's gonna go down. Engage is on him as Pop is moving forward. Lunkerfur trying to, you know, heal himself up just a little bit. Zeta's engage does go wide, but they find the stun onto Loopy here, who did try to use his ultimate, but got caught. Anyways, next kill here for Pop, as they at least get a little bit of an objective bounty here in mid lane, but I'm not sure that's enough of a cross-map play, as they're possibly looking to chase Akers. But they're too far away.
His cage also blocks an Nautilus.
Oh, wait, what?
Whoa, I missed that one.
I did not see that one coming. I'm not looking at the map as they are now collapsing onto Akers, who pops like a bubble. And now it's a bit of a numbers advantage, possibly, but Lunkerfur, again, very, very low. Elendil not able to withstand that damage coming out of Pop, as they are now turning to make a play onto Zeta, who has been caught just a little bit. Snipes coming out though. The root hits as Elendil goes down. Very nice shot as they are hooking back in. Lunkerfur pops, and now the Weaver's Wall to make their way out. Very important for JB to survive this. But in the end, it leaves the question of, you did get the Atakan, yes, but at what cost?
At the cost of 3 people, but honestly, the Atakan's huge here, because there's been so much action in this game. There's a ton of roses on the map, and those roses equal XP.
Yeah.
So it's actually given Bandits a massive XP slingshot to be now even, I believe. I can't see Elendil's level while he's dead. I don't know why Tournament Realm has that as a thing. But yeah, so Bandits really smartly, after seeing the overcommit topside, the Realm Warp used topside, just go, we're going to burst out this Atacam. We don't need our jungler actively here to do it because there's only a Yorick here.
Yeah.
They get the first catch onto Akkers, which is great. But then they realize, oh wait, the actual damage dealing people are coming. Uh-oh. And while Pop has to play it very slowly, Spark just gets a free reign here. As we're seeing in the picture-in-picture, Kenny getting caught. That should be another death for the Nautilus, quite likely. But yeah, Spark's able to pick this up. QQR just able to output a lot of Rise damage, and then Pop on the top side just getting that ult reset. I don't know what happened there, because I thought Pop channeled the Hound's Pursuit, but maybe the wall knocked him up while he was mid-air?
That could be a possibility, as we're getting a bit of Tokyo Drift action here, hitting the wall like a champion. That was Charles Leclerc saying, I am stupid. That's exactly what it looked like back in Baku a few years ago. Hard times for any F1 fan. Ferrari fan, to be specific. But, Rod, you know, they are still gaining so much out of that play, and I wonder if there would have been a way to disengage after getting that kill onto Akkers, because that was a nice catch. Akkers definitely stepped too far forward before his team was even in the area, but it looked like there was just no way out. As now the next objective should be the 4th Drake in about 45 seconds. It would be the soul for Brod and friends. And Bandits, they need to contest this. They need to contest this, even if it's just to buy 5 more minutes in this game.
So that's a 3k gold lead for Spark over Elendil. That's a 2k gold lead. Oh, actually, massive catch there onto Elendil.
Yep, and that is absolute Horus for Bandits as the pack is being called, but he has to go untargetable there just a little bit, and now with JB being down as well, I fear there is no damage on your team, Bandits. They have to step away. Lankafor trying to go for the recall here because they have to try and defend their base. Not sure how far Broad want to go. They do have a wave, they have the Maiden, they will definitely look to pick up at least this inhibitor, but is this a possibility to try and go for the end? It looks like they are stepping forward rather than backwards. It's only Loopy and Lankafor standing. The good news is that's one heck of a wall you have to get through. The bad news is you definitely lost a bit of your base there.
Yeah, Bandits left with just 2 tanks chilling in a base. Broad aren't able to get through that, but they're going to be able to pick up that Chemtech Soul outside of a clutch Elendil still, which I don't think is going to happen. Elendil just walking up way too far in that fight just spells disaster for the whole team. There's nothing really more I could say about it, as Chemtech Soul's taken.
Yep, Chemtech Soul is taken. And the Bandits are looking to find something important. Shutdown again for JB. JB having to put in the work for the team today as they are picking up Akkers on the side once more. They are trying to go for more as Pop has been down.
Oh!
Okay, that's such an important shutdown. This is huge for Bandits. They're looking for their comeback angle. They're looking to take us to a 3rd game here, possibly, as QQR is the next one going straight into the gray screen. Elendil has to do anything to make it out as Spark snipes him once more. Weaver's Wall, kind of not exactly what you needed it to be. Their barrier coming out, but in the end, it's the shutdown for the support. Of course, Kenny needs that kill. He needed that, and they're looking to go for the Baron here. As we can replay this.
So the Righteous isn't in the fight this entire time. Look how far south he is. It means Bandits can just focus down this Yorick. Elendil gets jumped on, but lives on slither of HP with that flash. Pop stuns himself on the unraveled earth there, using the Eviscerate. And then QQR's just left alone. Way too late to this fight. There's a fight going on in the Baron. It's not taken yet by the Bandits.
Yeah, because they decided they want to fight this. Zeta picks up a kill. Zeta just wants to clean up this team fight as, yes, the Baron goes over to Bandits. But again, at what cost? They're trying to make it out alive, take these buffs as much as they can with the call of the pack coming in once more. I think this should be it. 33 kills to Broad and Friends, 15 of those. Almost half of the entire kill score on Pop, who's playing an absolute banger match here. And this should be enough for them to actually end the game.
Scumbag Loopy Super Mega Blast cones Lunkifer back into the enemy team right there. They don't have a Baron.
Sold.
Oh my god. They've got a strong Yorick. They've got a strong Jhin. These towers are half HP or less.
Yeah, they're definitely looking to end here. It's a Ruffy McTuffy. That was a very nice comeback fight there, but Bandits, they need to do it again in order to stay alive, not only in this game, but within the UKEL split. But it doesn't look like they're able to do it. They're trying everything, but the minions are pouring in, and the damage output for Broad is still huge, as they're trying to get these kills. Oh my god, wait! Are they actually doing it? There is no flipping way! Zeta has to run for the hill. Spark is still alive though. Can Spark find a snipe here? Broad need to end this game, but they have to run because there is no chance for them to end at this. But Bandit's base is so wide open. That's an open nexus for you right there.
So they walk up with no minions, so the towers are incredibly tanky right now. And then Elendel's able to get so much free poke off. I thought it was over when JB gets caught by this Leona here. But no, he's just tanky enough with that Seraths. And then, yeah, Broad are all super low because they were tanking tower. No one's really hitting the Nexus here except for Spark, but he's a Jhin, so it doesn't really matter. Pop goes in, is able to claim Elendel's life, but Lunkifer just smacks him to death.
That's
with
crazy,
the Heartsteel, blunt force trauma coming out of that Mundo. And I mean, you know why they're called the Bandits, because that's an absolute robbery to keep themselves in this game now. Shutdowns have all gone over to the Bandits. And somehow, yeah, it's a 5k gold lead, but it was a 9k gold lead a while ago.
You have to ask yourself at 30 minutes in the game, how much does it actually matter, you know? If it's not 20k, obviously, which definitely did matter when we saw that happening, but, you know, these 5k, I don't know if they are as painful as they may sound, because I feel like Broad are suddenly realizing they have to respect Bandits a little bit, at least in this scenario. It's
you
crazy.
You sounded disgusted as you said that.
This is
wild.
I'm so confused about how they managed to come back here. Yes, the turrets are falling, and we can see Akkers on the side putting in the work to take down that inhib. As the inhibs have reached. Oh my god!
They have to wait for
was insane, but the inhibs are up. They can now hit the Nexus. They were going for it. They want to end it right here. But again, Elendil finds a way to play the fight. This game is not over yet. It will never end. It is an absolute miracle that Bandits are pulling off here. That game was over. It was done as Pop is trying to hit these inhibs, but they're taking the Weaver's Wall forward, and they're trying to bully Broad and friends away from their Nexus.
Elder Dragon's up in 50. Broad and friends are back up in time, and QQR and Akkers both have TP. I don't see any wards currently in the base of Bandits. No one dropped one for a sneaky TP play.
Man.
Sion is answering this top wave. I'm not sure what's going on anymore. Lunkifer hit the Overlord's blood mail just before that fight and was able to zone off Porp and Spark for that entire time. Rod and friends, their timing slightly off. Akkers just needed to hit the inhibitor a few more times before that Realm Warp came out. It was looking like a great play until you realised their timings were desynced.
Honestly, that Rise ult was insane, you know? I think they could pull it off again. They just need to put themselves in a bit of a safer position, because that inhib timing was horrible. I mean, of course, at this point you have to go Elder. I'm just saying, if you want to do a backdoor, you can only do...
Oh no, Pop!
Holy smokes, that was a lot of damage. Pop has to run for the hills, tries to heal himself up here.
Loopy can't stop Akkers here. I think Akkers is just going to take that wave in.
Akkers has to try. Akkers has to give it his all. He has to try and kill Loopy while the rest is fighting for this Elder Drake here. They're looking to get it. They got the Elder Drake. And this is what they needed. This is maybe as well what Loopy needed in the base to try and stop Akkers from taking over the entire game as Lunkifer goes down. And it doesn't matter. The Elder Drake does not seem to matter. Weaver's Wall trying
does it not?
to, you know, just buy some time, buy some space. It's not enough. The maiden goes down. But there is a wave coming in from topside. This has to be the end. There is no way JB can 1v9 this and take more time off the timers.
Oh my days!
But the auto damage is insane. It's a 1-for-1 in the end. It's a shutdown, but the ace for Brod and friends, and this absolute banger of a game ends with a win for Brod. Holy cow, dice from banger 07.
Okay, right. What on earth was that game?
I have absolutely no idea what happened. I mean, look, I applaud Bandits for even finding these angles in the end. It shows that they have had so much fighting spirits within them. And to be honest, for a second there, they made me believe. They really made me believe there is a world in which they can turn it all around. But I think the lead for Brod was just, it was, the snowball was already too big, you know, not even climate change can melt that big of a snowball at this point. You know, it's crazy.
They even got the pick onto the Nefiri to chunk it to half to blow her flash at the end. But Akis, he's a Yorick! He's too damn good at pushing! And then, yeah, just the TP coming in from the rise at the end. Just secured everything. Okay, I was expecting that game to be over 10 minutes ago. But wow, did Bandits hold on? But unfortunately, they're out of the tournament.
Yeah, but honestly, what a way to go out. I'm sure the analysts will have a lot to say about this, and I'm so happy we don't have to, you know, take this and pick it apart. I'm glad someone else is doing it. So that's it from us. Thank you guys, and we're throwing it over to the desk. 07 dice from banger.
So the Bandits are going home. My analysts are broken. And apparently a goon squad in the river is all you need to turn a game back on its head.
Yikes.
Well, we were going to come into this being like, wow, Brod looks so on. They're so solid. Like that first game, they were always they're on point. This second game, they just like, we were concerned about their draft because it seemed a little bit mismatched, mostly like a hands diff, as you said, Bloxer, and then suddenly something happened at about, I don't even know, I lost track of time and space. No, but I mean, I'll be honest with you, there were 2 games. This was in fact like a 3-game series, because this second game was like 2 games. It actually ended at that fight in the river, and then a new game happened afterwards. It was incredible. It was like, it was perfect. It was like you expect one thing.
The Bandits plugged their keyboards in all of a sudden, and then we got League of Legends.
They woke up about 25 minutes into this game and decided, oh yeah, this is the last game we're going to play this split if we don't try. And then they bothered, and then they forgot Yorick existed at the end. It was incredible.
For clarity, our green room was going absolutely mental when that game turned on its head. I was watching the chat on my other monitor, and it was going past quicker than I could read it. That being said, the early game, really not great for Bandits. We'll go into our first replay, which I think is of the early stages of the bot lane. Rob,
no,
we're
ignoring the early game.
We're going straight into the goon squad in the river, and I'm not going to lie to you, I saw this, and I called we're just goon squadding it in the river, and I didn't expect it to work.
I mean, it shouldn't, right? It should absolutely not work this game. And you look at it, you think, okay, they're so far ahead here. George Glizzy Langford's been doing tricks on it all game on the theory, and it comes to this fight in the river, and it just all goes the way of the Bandits. It's really, really insane that Bandits managed to pull this back, because the gold lead at this point was like, what? It was like 7, 8k, 9k or something? Like,
it's pushing
ridiculous.
10k at that point.
It was absurd, and they do bring it back, the Bandits, but... And they kept trying, and they get another fight that wins. And you sit there thinking, they actually might bring this one back. Yeah. In which case, we'd be having a very different conversation right now.
Yeah. Like, I'll give you a little insight into the background, right? We talk about what happens if things are 2-0s. We talk about what happens if things are 2-1, where we're going, who we're throwing to. There's an if. Oh, if this is a 2-0, I'm like, if. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Making fun of it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, uh-oh. Oh no, I might look real dumb right here as things got worse and worse and worse. Off the back of what is a brilliant hands check early game, right? You do all of the hard work for yourself with this odd composition that you've got here. as Broad and friends, but then all of a sudden you're just like, what if? Have you considered that we could just let the other team get back into this game? And we called out, we were like, that's a lot of gold in shutdowns, right? Yeah, they're down by 7,000 gold, but they've just gotten 4,000 gold in shutdowns, right? Like, uh-oh.
That we have another replay ready for you right now. I'm not sure what this is, so we'll find out. This is the Baron take. Now, eyes on Zeta here, ladies and gentlemen, because Zeta does his best.
He's trying to delay.
He's
a
killing
great
JB
delay.
is what he's doing.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good job, you know? Good job from Zeta. And it should...
Sail longer down the river.
should result in a really good fight. Unfortunately, Bandits get inted by their own blast cone in that situation, and we're like, cool, right. So there was a little bit of fun, you know. They decided to have a bit of fun with this one, and we're chilling, right? This game's over.
No.
They're gonna end the game, right?
Incorrect.
Right, Brod? the game is done, right, Brod?
Simply incorrect, my dear friend.
This is what happens, though, when you pick yourself a really odd composition that doesn't really work in and of itself, like Brod had. Yeah, they hands diff, they hands check their opponents during the early stages of the game, but at some point, Sion has 50,000 health, and Mundo has 50,000 health, and your Jhin isn't good at taking down tanks, and that's the issue that they start running into, right? As soon as they mess up that initial push into the base, and all of that gold goes over to the members of Bandits, well, their composition kind of comes online, and yeah, they don't win in the end, but like all of a sudden, everybody here's sweating a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this final replay will be of that last Elder fight. Rob, if you want to talk us through the last minute or so of the game.
It's a disaster, really, isn't it? Because Bandits, we'd seen them manage to brought this back to what was about like a 3-4k gold lead, and 2k of that was under support, right? Zeta was about 2k up. But they just forget Yorick exists and that Rise has teleport and an ultimate available. They do get the Elder. Yes, it looks like they play the fight well, but that wasn't the plan for Brod all along, right? It was to slow contest the Elder and just let Akaz and QQR get into a position where they can look for the back door, which they managed to take it down, and then it's just JB left, who has Elder, and I mean, the amount of damage that he was putting out here was really ridiculous. Just look at this rock right onto Spark. It does like half his HP, but it's not going to be enough in the end. Brod did end up taking it, but let's be honest, in another world where they weren't so far ahead, I think Brod played this game really well early on. Don't get me wrong, but like we were saying on the desk, how hard this will be for Brod. You know, they need to start smacking lanes around, which is what they did. But you see how hard it was for them to finish. And honestly, I think if a few more hooks from Kenny land, which we can joke about that, or you know, if the early game isn't as awful in the bot lane, let's be honest, we can't say anything other than it was an awful bot lane experience for Lendl and Kenny this game. Then we could be looking at this being 1-1, because honestly, Bandits' composition later looked like it could easily match up, and it was just simply how much of the map had been taken by Brod at that point that pinned Bandits in their base.
They couldn't get through the early game, and they had to get to the point at which you have 1,000,000 health on your big tanky carries, and you can actually protect these ADCs and this mid laner to actually try to play around them. Their roam potential, if they were in a good spot once you got to these objective fights, should have been really strong. But I would just like to say, as one final capstone right here on the Bandits, that this is a real disappointment for them. I think they've turned into a really good organization. I really like what they've been building for themselves, and it sucks to see them go out at this point, right? You get yourself into the finals, you lose to a Venom Crest that's way too good for the UKL. That sucks, but everybody was expecting it, right? We all knew that Venom Crest roster was going to be stacked going in, and they didn't lose a single game. That's fine. I wasn't mad about that. I thought making finals, making it to LAN was super exciting. For this squad to get knocked out here, yeah, they managed to put a good performance in versus Paragon, but like we were saying, right, Paragon hadn't had the best time of it either. They're going to be pretty disappointed to be knocked out here in round 2 of the losers bracket, and I really hope we get to see a very exciting look from the Bandits next split as well, because I like what this org is building, and yeah, they're going to be pretty upset with this one.
Can certainly imagine so. Now, Rob, any final thoughts before we start to wrap up for the day?
I think that Brod, we can go recency bias, because Brod looked good today, and then they didn't look good against Inkquick. And my final wrapping up thoughts is, whoever they end up, they should still consider whoever they face in that next game, whether it's Rise or Belfast Storm. I have some personal preference to Rise, but either way, I think that they shouldn't get too complacent with this 2-0 win. because I think we saw today there could still be, in a game which is more even, some issues for Brod. And I have bets on Sin beating his former team. So if he does it wrong, it's his fault, and I blame him for my bet being wrong.
On that note, let's pull up the bracket one final time, ladies and gentlemen, as the Bandits head on home today, dropping at 0-2 to Brod and Friends. They will now, Brod and Friends will now go forwards to face whoever wins between Rise Gaming and Belfast Storm on Thursday for that next slot in the final round of the lower bracket versus the loser of Inkwick versus Venom Crest, and to continue their journey towards finals. Rob has already said he believes Rise is going to be the team that Brod and Friends face. Bloxer, have you got a differing opinion?
I think the Rise look like a much better team than Belfast Storm, but also they have a real proclivity to throw games into it. I'm still molding about that bot lane What were they doing? Oh, I'm so angry about that one, and I think I will be angry about that one for a very long time. If they manage to, clean up that macro, get better at finishing out these games, yeah, I think Rise look like the better squad, but hey, Belfast Storm, they've been building something. They've been looking better and better as they've been moving through this losers bracket. It could be a pretty close one.
That it could. Well, time will tell. One final reminder that tickets for finals are on sale. Come and join us at Staffordshire Uni up in Stoke-upon-Trent on the 21st of June. Stafford Uni's new arena for our grand finals live. Both, I believe both arena tickets and watch party tickets available for those at home. So please do come down and come and watch the finals live with all of us. I'm sure a group of us will